Just a warning here, guys, my voice is coming back, but we're not quite there, so yes, things may sound a bit scratchy. With that being said though, today we're going to be going over the Fate Saga breakdown. Essentially, Bungie revealed their next saga for Destiny 2, and essentially their rollout of content over the next 2 years. And there was a lot of information that was being thrown our way. Everything from gameplay, to destinations, to story, to lore, new weapons, abilities, quality of life updates, the list goes on. Now in this video, we're going to give you a complete overview of everything that was announced in Rite of the Nine, Edge of Fate, and beyond. First up, the Edge of Fate will be launching July 15th, 2025. And this will be Bungie's first expansion since the final shape, kicking off the brand new multi-year Fate Saga, which includes the Edge of Fate in summer 2025, Renegades in winter 2025, Shattered Cycle summer 2026, and the Alchemist in winter 2026. Now looking at the roadmap here, you can see that every 6 months, Bungie plans to drop one of these expansions, and every 3 months will be supplemented by a major update. So for instance, on September the 9th, 2025, we'll be getting something called Ash and Iron. On March 3rd, 2026, we'll be getting Shadow and Order. Now these major updates are not tied to the expansion, and they're completely free. What this also means is that seasonal content isn't phased out year over year, but instead here to stay. In Ash and Iron, we're actually going to be returning to the Plaguelands. The update will also include a new game mode called Reclaim, and a new exotic mission, new pinnacle ops, 2 new exotic weapons, and an assortment of new gear as well. Now some of you still holding out that we're going to get that Siva's subclass, or perhaps the return of Wrath of the Machine. Neither of those were mentioned, so again, don't get your hopes up, or at least keep those expectations somewhat tempered. I'm even more curious to know what the story and lore is going to be around us returning to the Plaguelands. Now there is going to be a season pass, however it's bundled with each expansion, or you can purchase it separately for 1,000 silver, which is roughly $10. Now a pain point for many players is the amount of raids and dungeons we are receiving each year, and that being reduced. Edge of Fate will bring a new raid, Renegades will bring a new dungeon, which means we're only going to be getting 2 new large in-game activities each year, whereas this past year we've got Vesper's Host, Sunder Doctrine, and Edge of Salvation. Now the new raid for Edge of Fates will release on July the 19th, so again, mark those calendars, guys. This is a Saturday, which is a shift from the usual Friday release. The last time they did this was actually back in Bound of the Disciple, and you know how that went. Hopefully that won't be the case this time, and again, with it being on the weekend, should mean more people getting the opportunity to jump in and give the raid a go. Now there are 4 editions of the DLC that you can pre-order right now. You've got the Edge of Fate Standard Edition, which just covers the Edge of Fate expansion, which is $40, the Year of Prophecy Edition, which includes the Edge of Fate and Renegades expansion, which is $80, and the Year of Prophecy Ultimate Edition, which includes 2 expansions, plus 3 Star Wars themed ornament sets, an assortment of emblems, emotes, materials, and even New Land Beyond. Now this is $100, and then you have the Collector's Edition, which is a whopping $275 if you want the Guardian statue, as well as some other cool digital and physical collectibles. Now even though we don't have much information on the expansions releasing in 2026, what we do know is that the Fate Saga will last for several years, so essentially wrapping up by the Alchemist. As in, this doesn't look to be a 10-year saga, but it could be the segue into us eventually approaching who we think is the main antagonist, that being the Winnower. Now surprisingly, the Edge of Fate is not taking us outside of our solar system. Instead, we're going to be taking a greater focus on our solar system as a whole. We have been summoned by the Nine to a planetoid located in the Oort cloud called Kepler. Here we are going to encounter visible dark matter that will interact with us, giving us new abilities to solve puzzles, allowing us to manipulate the world around us and traverse new spaces. Now each of the new abilities we encounter in the Edge of Fate is an expression of our subclass powers in dark matter. Now, normally we wouldn't be able to see dark matter, but thanks to a bioluminescent microbe, which is present on Kepler, we could see it just fine, which tells me all of these new abilities will most likely only be present on that new destination, similar to like strand grapple nodes on Neomuna. Now, one of the abilities we saw and what Bungie calls the premier ability of the Edge of Fate is called Matter Spark. Basically, you transform into a ball of arc lightning, you can roll around enemies, you can go inside of tight crevices, and as you travel, you build up charge, and when you reach maximum charge, you can release a shockwave that jolts surrounding enemies. You also have Boost Meter, which can increase your speed for a short duration. Now, another ability we saw is the Void Relocator Cannon. This was actually showcased in the gameplay trailer. You see it shooting at specific targets, will actually allow you to bypass laser walls and then teleport around the world. And then if you use it on enemies, it will create a giant void explosion. Now, the final ability we saw was Mattermorph. This is tied to Strand and will allow us to manipulate the environment to create bridges, open doors, and reveal secrets. Now, this one in particular particular appears to be tied to your melee ability and has a very quick recharge. Now, as mentioned, you can use Metamorph like strand shurikens on enemies, so it too has offensive capabilities. Now, it didn't appear as though any of these abilities would require you to run a certain subclass. In fact, we see a Guardian using Metamorph and Matter Spark in quick succession. So no matter what build you have, expect to always have access to these new powers. Now, these abilities will be unlocked and upgraded as you progress the main story of the Edge of Fate, offering new ways to solve puzzles over time. This means not only will you get more abilities, but they'll also get more powerful. Now, we only saw 3 today, but perhaps there are 2 more correlating with Stasis and Solar, and who knows, maybe another tied to Prismatic as well. Although I highly doubt that, considering that Prismatic is really just a combination of all of our other abilities. Either way, I really hope there are more that we can unlock over time to increase the puzzle complexities, but hey, we'll see. Now, Bungie is also introducing world tiers. These are higher level difficulties in the Kepler destination that will unlock as you progress through the story, and it increases rewards. Now, this reminds me a lot of the Nether that we currently have in Heresy, where you have the Explorer version, Normal, and then Experts. I hope Bungie takes it a step further though, and leans into it almost like Diablo style. I want the world to be noticeably more dangerous at the higher world tiers. Now, so far, in terms of loot, things are looking pretty juicy. The one that stood out the most is this hand cannon sidearm that deals arc damage, but appears to have a special reload mode switch to stasis. Now, if you ever switch affinities on Hardlight, it does this same animation. So most likely we're looking at an exotic with multiple affinities and perhaps some unique interactions, since it looks like the arc mode summons this AoE bolt of lightning, and the stasis version does this AoE that sends out this cold snap grenade, which spawns a stasis crystal and will freeze nearby targets. Now, the Bungie press kit shows 6 new 9 weapons, and we see a few of these in action throughout the gameplay trailer. The machine gun appears to be arc, but I'm unsure if that's just an effect created by the Vex enemies that are dying. The Strand Pulse rifle looks very interesting. During the showcase, we see it shoot out a Strand missile, consuming 3 rounds, and then immediately followed up with a normal 3-round burst. Not only that, we also see it suspend an enemy after only dealing damage. Now, normally you have to get a kill, land a ton of precision hits, or throw a tangle to suspend a target, but if this weapon has a perk that suspends targets just by doing damage, oh my, that's going to be quite potent. Now, we also have some weapons that were shown in the press kits. Here you see a Titan holding what appears to be a 9 scout rifle, but the Warlock and Hunter are holding 2 weapons that look completely different. At the subway, the Warlock is holding what may be an auto rifle or a scout rifle, and at the end of the gameplay trailer, the Warlock is shooting a Strand rocket launcher. Now, all of these weapons have a similar style, so my guess is that these are probably going to be the set of weapons that are going to be tied to the destination. Now, in the Edge of Fate, it appears we're also going to be receiving a special and heavy ammo meter. This one right here is a big change, guys. Bungie has mentioned in the past how they would like to make ammo drops more deterministic, and it looks like this is their solution. Based off of the footage that we see in the showcase, these meters are tied to final blows, as only when enemies die do the meters progress. Now, it doesn't happen on every weapon kill, so there's probably a cooldown. There's also a new weapon stat though called ammo generation, meaning some weapons will be more effective than others at generating ammo, and perhaps we'll even get a weapon mod that increases this stat as well. Now, armor is getting a major adjustment in Edge of Fate. Stats have been reworked into 6 categories, each with 200 total points available to allocate. Now, the benefits are not tiered, and they're on a per point basis, with an enhanced benefits once you cross over 100 points. You've got weapons with its base benefits, which increases weapon reload speed and handling, as well as damage against minor and major combatants, with its enhanced benefits stating that ammo bricks from defeated targets have a chance to contain additional rounds, and increases weapon damage against bosses and opposing guardians. That's crazy. Then we have health. Base benefits increases the amount of health you gain each time you pick up an orb of power, reduces flinch from incoming fire while aiming a weapon, with its enhanced benefits stating that your shields recharge more quickly and have additional health when facing combatants. Now, I'm going to make a note on this. I think this means that resilience values in PvP are now gone, as in no increased shields, just static max health for all players. Then we have class. Benefits reduces your class ability cooldown at base and increases the amount of class ability energy provided by all sources, with the enhanced benefits stating that you gain an overshield when you use your class ability. Guys, I cannot stress just how nutty these things are. Grenade. Base benefits reduce your grenade ability cooldown, increases the amount of grenade energy from all sources. Enhanced benefits increases damage done by your grenades. Super benefits increases the amount of super energy from all sources. Enhanced benefits increases the damage done by your super. Melee benefits reduces your melee cooldown, increases the amount of melee energy from all sources. Enhanced benefits increases the damage done by your melee attacks. Guys, I cannot stress how big these stat changes really are. It's not just a name change. change. Fundamentally, this is a massive shift inside of Destiny that we haven't seen in years. I put this on the same level as us going from like static subclasses to our fragment aspect system that we currently have in the game. What this really does is that it opens up build crafting on so many levels. Do you want more super damage? Do you want more melee damage, more grenade damage? Do you want to fully invest in weapons and do more damage against opposing guardians? Then to take this even further, armor will now give set bonuses. The two examples we see in stream are the Aeon Renewal set and the Tech Sec set. Now, Tech Sec right here, it's two-piece. It's called Wrecker, where you deal significantly increased kinetic damage to combat shields, overshields, vehicles, and constructs. And its four-piece set gives you concussive rounds. Defeating powerful combatants or breaking a combatant shield with kinetic damage releases a disorienting kinetic shockwave. Now, Aeon Renewal set. The two-piece set for this is Force Converter. After a final blow with missiles, rocket launchers, or grenade launchers, sprint for a short time to gain speed booster. And his four-piece set is Reactive Booster. Once per activation of Force Converter, sprinting while at critical health, being suspended, or being slowed by a stasis effect will immediately grant speed booster for a short duration. Now, we've seen a few more examples of set bonuses in Bungie's next-gen armor blog posts, which they dropped last October. I'm not going to rely on these too much because let me just say things have already changed even since that blog post. Luckily for us though, Bungie has already stated that multiple tweets will be coming out over the next month, which will be giving us much more detail on all of these changes. I cannot stress just how big of a deal this armor change actually is, which takes us to gear tiers. All of our legendary weapons and armor will now have 5 tiers that will increase the overall quality of the item. For armor, higher gear tiers will increase the available energy for mods and increase the total stats. For weapons, tier 5 has a special shader, unique kill effects, increased stats, enhanced perks, and 3 perks in the 3rd and 4th columns. Now, it wasn't clarified exactly how to get tier 5 gear, but it sounds like you won't be able to upgrade the tier of a weapon after it drops. However, via leveling up somehow, you'll be able to unlock tier 5 drops. So think of this as you progress your character's ability to attain tier 5 weapons and armor through progression in game. Now, are we getting a new enemy faction in Edge of Fate? It doesn't seem like we are. The Fallen and the Vex are both going to be present on Kepler. There have been some changes to them though. For instance, the Fallen now have jetpacks, and these units are called Corsairs. Some of the Fallen ground units have strand spears and stasis shields, and the Vex have these like arachnid drones called Imp Swarms, which are actually terrifying. Now, we did see a very short clip of the social space on Kepler, and there are people already here, which is interesting. And as you can see in the background, there's also a postmaster, a vault terminal. So I imagine this is going to be similar to like Neomuna, where you just walk in from the open world, meet with the vendors, and just head back out. Now, in this short clip, you see there's this arc ring in the background, which is the same shape as the building in this screenshot. So my guess is that these structures are one and the same. Now, let's talk core game. The core experience of Destiny is changing in a few ways here. Bungie has revealed their concept for the portal, and we knew this was coming for a long time, but essentially, instead of opening the game and clicking straight into the director, Bungie has created a new menu where you can access most of the game's activities very quickly. Now, this includes the tower, events, new content, solo, group, in-game, and crucible activities. Let me just say, during the reveal, just about everyone hated this portal menu. I think the main sticking point was when Bungie said the director button would be replaced with this page. They didn't really emphasize that you could still access destinations in the same way you do now, literally in the tab right next to it. Now, I understand why some people don't like this tab. Maybe it feels a little mobile-esque. I think the main issue here is that new players and returning players just get overwhelmed with the current destination tab. We were actually talking about this on stream, that even players that play the game regularly will forget where a dungeon is. Now, in terms of power climb, this is going to be consolidated and achievable via Crucible now. And they're kind of tying this back to what they did toward the end of Destiny 1, where if you're just a PvP player, you could still increase your light level by just playing PvP. I don't know how I feel about this. I think Destiny is at its best when PvE players have to play PvP, and PvP players have to play PvE. Do I love playing Gambit? No, but I do it every season because I got to. I love when the game forces me to do things I don't want to do, except deleting things out of my vaults. That's where we draw the line. Now, another thing that was mentioned in the stream was the customized difficulty arriving in Edge of Fate. In an activity, not only will you be able to select the combatant power, which looks like it's also been overhauled in this expansion, but Bungie is also adding 50 new modifiers. Yes, you heard that right, 50. One of the boons is called Grappler, which will give you something like 3 grapple grenades with increased regeneration speed, and you could use these as Spider-Man around the map, although there's some downsides to these abilities as well. Now, this is going to revolutionize build crafting in a way we haven't seen before, and it also seems like it's going to introduce more difficult content. Now, one of the biggest changes that Bungie is adding is the shooting range to Destiny. This is not here right now, but will be added in Edge of Fate. Gone are the days of queuing up at the Templar or punching Greg over over and over are sitting inside of the lost sector with Carl. Now, you can have Carl right here at the tower, and it's easily accessible alongside tons of other features, guys. They didn't show off everything, but you can see here there's raid banners, there's DPS and damage value displays. You could spawn in multiple different enemy types. Fellas, this is a dream come true. I couldn't have asked for a better damage testing area than this right here. Now, I know some of you are asking, Cross, what is up with Renegades? Is it Star Wars? Is it Destiny? Well, that's this year's second expansion, which will be launching December the 2nd, 2025. And it's going to have its own dedicated showcase alongside the Ash and Iron update in September. Yes, it is heavily Star Wars themed. There will be lightsabers, there will be blasters, there's a desert environment, and this was a controversial announcement for a lot of people. Now, DMG did put out a tweet stating that Renegades is a Destiny story and that it will be canon. So yes, the theme is Star Wars, which seems to be more of a play on marketing. I guess the question is how do you balance a lightsaber? Fellas, you got me, I don't know. Which takes us to what we know about the story so far. In the opening cinematic trailer, we see the emissary of the Nine hovering on the planetoid Kepler. The dialogue informs us that we are being summoned to Kepler by the Nine. However, before the trailer ends, the emissary is ripped apart from within, and a guardian steps out that says, "My will is my own." Now, the guardian here that we suspect is Orin, who, if you don't know, was the individual who became the emissary for the Nine. Now, supposedly Orin is no longer willing to serve as the emissary of the Nine, and we're going to find out more details why she is putting in her 2 weeks in the Rite of the Nine. Now, the phrase, "my will is my own," is obviously letting us know that she has fully broken free of the Nine's influence and will be a pivotal character in the next expansion. Now, the funny thing is we've heard the exact opposite of this phrase a million times from Xur, who often says, "my will is not my own," which makes us wonder, are we going to break Xur out? And if we did, is he going to stop bringing us goodies? I don't know. Now, time is going to play a major role in shaping the story in the Edge of Fate. Some things from Earth's past have been yanked into Kepler's present, and based on what we saw in the gameplay trailer, we believe Lodi is one of those things. Now, forewarning on this is all just speculation at this point in time, but Lodi has been pulled from Chicago during the collapse. The buildings burning with pyramid ships overhead, the Chicago text in the trailer, the Metro card that looks exactly like the ones found in Chicago. It just makes the most sense. Now, Lodi is actually the voice speaking throughout the gameplay trailer, and he has some interesting lines like, "I'm no longer human," and "no one else should know what this feels like." He also repeats the same 6 words: observe, connect, conceal, conform, comply, and return. Now, looking at the collector's edition, we could see these same words written on the included medallion. No clue what these words mean. We were speculating it could be Warmind related, since when Lodi says them, he mostly does it in groups of 3s, which is very similar in style to some of the Rasputin lore cards. And near the end of the trailer, his voice starts to modulate like a robot. That combined with his earpiece and his line about no longer being human start to build up an interesting case. For instance, Luke is convinced that Lodi is secretly evil and planning to stab us in the back. Ikora also seems suspicious of him, so who knows? At the very least, there is more to him than meets the eye. Now, fun fact, if you were curious about the gun that Lodi is holding, it looks like it's the Roderick C. blue sidearm with the black paint job. Now, in the Kepler social space, we see other people standing around. Allison, the narrative director, said they've been on Kepler for a long time, perhaps even as far back as the Golden Age. She also made mention that the Aeon terminal was old as well. So perhaps the people on Kepler are the same scientists who were performing experiments on chess pieces for Aeon. Now, if that's the case, then the entire human facility on Kepler may directly be pulled from the Golden Age as well. Now, other interesting tidbits: the Vex are on Kepler to study the Nine, and the Fallen House of Exile are fixated on being called the Giver. I think this Giver is responsible for the darkness weaponry that we see that the Fallen are using in the gameplay trailer. They've been blessed with the lights by the Traveler before. Now someone else is blessing them with darkness power. So guys, that is it. That is our breakdown of the Fate Saga and what's to come. Big changes on the horizon, guys. We'll have more streams from Bungie, and I'm sure a number of TWABs from now until then. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.